I want to call back to my epistemic flaws in modern science video real quick and talk about how the reification of scientific theory manifests, how it happens in conversation, right? So I go to the flat Earth theorists' YouTube channels and argue in the comments section with not with the flat earthers. I don't care. They're exploring. How the hell do I know, right? I don't care. Anyway, what I'm interested in is the people who are there to represent quote unquote science. The flat earther will say gravity is theoretical, and the person representing science will say no, it isn't. It's a phenomena, right? They can't separate the force that pulls you downward from the theory that explains it. There's no distinction between the two in their mind. So the person will say, I'm talking about the theory, right? I'm talking about Newton and Einstein, right? They'll say, it's just a theory, man. It's not a fact. This is the flat earther. And the person representing science says, well, you don't know the difference between a colloquial theory and a theory in the context of science. They'll say a colloquial theory is a baseless claim. So they reframe what a theory is colloquially because that's not what a theory is. Nobody uses a theory in those terms. When you don't like somebody else's theory, like you don't like the idea of the flat earth and it just pisses you off, you'll call it a baseless claim. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying people have a knee-jerk reaction to the concept of conspiracies as though they don't happen, as though they can't happen, and as though suggesting that they do makes you a crazy person, right? So these science-minded people go on to the conspiracy theorist websites and try to debunk them with science, and it aggravates me because they don't understand science. They think that a theory is different in the context of science because it's based on facts. The problem is the theory is not proven by the facts. The theory is an interpretation of the facts. It's your explanation for why the facts exist. The facts do not validate the theory. That would be circular reasoning. The theory is based on the facts, and it's an extrapolation. It's your perspective. If you're wrong, you wouldn't know because you'd think you're right because you think you got it. So, and if you have this mindset scientifically, you're not going to figure things out. Like Einstein was probably on the wrong track when he came up with the special when he realized he had to come up with special relativity. And then on top of that, you got to have string theory and dark matter. It's not a great explanation. But people, instead of going back to the drawing board, right? Like maybe mass doesn't curve space-time. Maybe that's not the true reality of the situation because that's just our conception of what's happening, that there's no fact that can prove a theory. No fact can ever prove your perception. It can fine tune your perception. The more facts you have, the better your perception is likely to be, but you can never be sure that you actually have it. Just like in regular everyday life, science is no different. That's possible, right? You can totally not have it but think you do. You should always be cautious that that is a potential pitfall of epistemology. That's a core axiom of logic and epistemology. You have to understand that you could be wrong. It's science has institutionalized this sort of gatekeeping. You're just not as smart as us, and that's the problem. You don't understand what the word theory is. Like they think they know what they're talking about. They act like they know what they're talking about. They're very condescending to these flat earthers, as though the flat earthers are idiots because they don't understand science when they themselves have no clue what they're talking about. It's so ironic, it's obnoxious also. Like you're misrepresenting science doing that. You're not helping science by trying to tell people that a theory is synonymous with fact. Of course, if you point out to them that you're treating theory as a fact, they'll say no serious scientist treats a theory as a fact, but then they won't be able to make a distinction between Einstein's theory and the force that pulls you downward, right? Like if you question, you say, well, Einstein was wrong, and then they're like, well, why don't you just float away, right? They can't even conceive that there is a distinction between the force and the theory. They think the theory is a fact. They'll say they don't, But they're saying that because that's part of the theology, the liturgy of the theology. You know, that's just something you chant, but you don't understand what the hell you're saying, right? And they're so condescending about it. That's the problem. Science has become really absurd.